Welcome back, everyone, to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. It's the North American West competition, and we are in the midst of the semifinals. Our players only have about an hour left of games to play to try and become one of the top 100 players to make it into the grand finals later on. I'm your host, Kelly Link, and joining me, your casters, it's Sundown and Fallout. And Sundown, I have to say, your artistic prowess is as good as your casting ability.
What?
I don't know how to take that. I mean,
that is rude.
I'm kidding.
I was gonna say subpar. I love it, Kelly. Kelly's throwing shade. I love that.
Subpar might even be a compliment in and of itself. Like subpar would be an offensive to the subpar drawing people. I think that was a stretch at best.
Ooh, speaking of stretch, he's one of the players that we're seeing. More players that we're seeing.
Kelly, you recovered very, very well. You needed to.
Let's pull up the leaderboard right now, everyone. Woo, yeah, that was a good segue. I'm quite proud of that.
That was impressive, yeah.
Ladies man up on top in first place with 338 points. Right behind him, Daddy Temple, one of the daddies that we saw yesterday and we're taking a look at. Dex is taking third place, Baka in fourth, and then Looks out in fifth. A few other names, though, following up that we all know. 40R, Tavern, Epic Whale, and Assault, of course, and Avery. But I actually want to look at the players that are just on the threshold right now. Macon, currently at 101st place. Fallout, what does he have to do with the hour he has left to make sure he makes it into the grand finals?
More of what he did 2 games ago, because that was great. Nice shot from Macon closing that one out. But no, jokes aside, consistency is going to be important. Placement, I think, is still the play in this format. You got to try and make it to late game. You're going to be able to get a few picks after the fact. I love to see Ladies Man in first place because we also have Ladies Man in the chat right now. This is, by the way, best vibes in the world, best Twitch chat in the world right now. And Ladies Man is also hanging out in chat, currently in first place. A big shout out to Ladies Man.
Yeah, Sundown, I feel a little bad. I want to take back what I said. You have been doing an incredible job of casting, of course, and some of the players that you've looked at that have really surprised you today. What are some of them?
I would say J Rose's ability to kind of continue his momentum rolling even when facing the tough opportunities has been good. And I would also say I'm kind of shocked by Reet and Arkham just because of the amount of negative games they had. Normally they have a couple, but it's not that high volume, so a little bit going on there.
Yeah, the last time that I checked on Reet, he had 7 or 8 games played while people were still on their third. I think he was sitting around 130th place with 9 games played. So I don't know if he has the opportunity really to make a comeback, take one of the top 100s. But it does look like our boy Arkham is sitting pretty right now at 64th place. But we have an hour left, everyone. The games are ready to go. So Fallout Sundown, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And as mentioned, Arkham currently in top 80 approximately. So kind of on the fringe. Only 2 games left. Needs to be perfect. As Sundown said earlier in these last 2 games, he needs to be errorless. We'll see if he can do it. He's right next to his boy Falconer, 100 Thieves, trying to make sure they're representing much like they did in NA East in July. And, you know, across the board, 100 Savage holding it down. Or sorry, Mr. Savage for 100 Thieves holding it down in Europe. Of course, we want Arkham and Falconer to continue that trend of 100 Thieves dominance and excellence in Fortnite.
And right now you can see we got MIDI in the top right, Excel Clutch in your bottom right-hand corner, and then the mini-map drop spot on the left. Looks like in terms of the spread, you're going to have a solid portion heading towards the southeast and the due south portion of the map. So majority of the players are going to be. However, we're going to hop on board here with Excel Clutch as 3 players are landing over at the fully revealed Steam. He stacks it right away. Deadshot not living up to his name, instead catching that one like an extra in an action movie. He's like, get down, Mr. President, I got it. Boom. Taken out right as Benny does a flyby.
He is dead by that shot from Clutch, also living up to his name with Mr. Clutch. Hits the first shot, hits the one shot that matters, and gets a nice 5 points, 225 points total to his name. So that's huge for Clutch. Good way to start. Currently well qualified, as Clutch, I believe, is sitting in a very good spot overall in our standings. Trying to look it up quickly if I can. We'll keep a close eye on the standings to see where Clutch is at. 42nd place is where Clutch was going into this game. So a very, very strong start for him.
Yeah, and particularly once we get into this final moment. So I think a big aspect of tournaments is playing, and not only to the format, but also your time management, how you go through what you're looking to accomplish with your game. So one thing to remember is as we're watching these server replays, they're about 10 to 15 minutes behind what the actual live leaderboard is, just in terms of getting the observers into the game, the natural competitive integrity reload that's in there, and coordinating all the stuff. So there is a little bit of a delay there, but also just when you're playing over the course of a 3-hour session, your first couple games, you want to get a rhythm going. You want to establish a couple points. Now, as you get towards the end, you want to be looking at how many games do I have left? How long can I really be spending in this game? Can I get a bunch of eliminations? Do I need to be playing it all the way out to the end? Or do I need to really just get kind of a quick 20, 30 points, try and win some 50-50s, win some fights, and then queue back up? Like, managing that and maximizing your number of points is going to be the difference between making the top 100 and not.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I think there's a few ways to do that, and it's always a rough call of how do you want to play it. Do you want to play W key aggressive, maybe get a few eliminations, jump to another game, kind of maximize your 10 games like you said, or do you try and play for late game and hope that you can pop off with a 50-point game? FaZe Binny in the distance. We saw the feature on FaZe Binny yesterday. FaZe Binny did qualify, I believe, for our last DreamHack Open as a finalist. Of course, over thousands of players, hundreds of thousands of players actually competing for the last DreamHack Open. To be a top 100 player making it to that final lobby is insane, much like it will be this time around. Clutch is one player that is looking on par to get there.
And is doing fine so far, continuing to try and line up these key shots, not quite finding it there as Guy Goose takes down Nick, who got off to an early start earlier today.
And honestly, right now, just looking for picks at this range, we kind of talked about the general pacing of the game. You can expect once the initial drop spots have kind of figured themselves out and those engagements have concluded, you're mostly only going to find fights from people who are really pushing the pace in terms of eliminations, or those who are looking for upgrades or hunting down the mythics. But right now, we're looking at a potential engagement between Binny and Clutch.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Clutch, not sure if he saw something or heard something, but he's going to be doubling back here. I'm going to start whispering because I don't want Binny to hear me. Now, jokes aside, can he get the second double headshot? No, not going to take the shot just yet. Is Clutch waiting very patiently? Binny has no idea that Clutch is in the vicinity. I like the decision from Clutch. Can he be Clutch? There it is! Clutch going to connect for another headshot. That's on FaZe Binny. Huge pick. 2 shots, 2 headshots with the sniper. And who says it's not good to get a sniper in early games? Clutch showing he can put it to work still.
Yeah, really good patience there to guarantee the standstill shot, waiting for Binny to kind of crouch down there inside the container. Unfortunate getting picked off there, but I think that's one of the aspects of the Battle Royale genre that Fortnite pros have gotten kind of less used to. The players setting up these cheeky little picks and the kind of manufactured eliminations. We saw it in the very first game where Flois sat above the top of the vault in the area where you weren't able to build to get the pick off onto Arkham and to get that initial drop down. But now we're hopping on board here with NRG, Glizzy Unknown, aka Unknown Army, aka the Hybrid God, aka the clicks hating champion of all the cash cups and pushing everyone in the world but Eclipse, currently sitting on 1 HP, and I would say a hope and a dream, but when you have Unknown Army knocking on your door, I don't know if you have either of those.
Yeah, and you have 1 HP. If somehow, some way Eclipse is able to pull us out of nowhere, I don't know, I'll do something crazy. I'll lose my mind. But Unknown Army should be in a good position to close this out. Looks like someone nearby is looming. And of course, he has to be a little bit careful here, is Unknown Army. We all know how aggressive Unknown Army plays. One of the most aggressive W keyers in the game, or, stick forwarders, depending what input he's playing on at that given moment. He's going to pick up the Elim, get some nice loot, chug splashes, and crash pads in his inventory. 2 big pots, a burst AR, and a charged shotgun. I like the loadout right now for Unknown Army, who needs to have a big game here because he is at 174 points below the threshold.
Yeah, he really needs to push himself forward. And something we've seen particularly with Unknown Army in the DreamHack format is he struggles after the first round. And it happened at Anaheim. I believe it happened on NA East as well. I'll need to go back and just reconfirm that. The number of tournaments are starting to get not small in terms of the recent results. But he's historically, when in these semifinal rounds, he'll have a couple of really aggressive games and he'll get himself rolling. But if he stalls out, he can really struggle to kind of find that momentum momentum again and play to the playstyle that's required to really maximize points, which is make it to endgame and then pop off in the endgame and get not only the eliminations, but also kind of those guaranteed 30 and 40 placements. As now Domo, another player who's very consistent on NA West, is just going to pick that one up. Right guy going down there, and Domo making short work of him with the tactical shot.
That's exactly right. Domo has gotten 1 second place finish in FNCS or Cash Cups this season. In Season 3 is now Domo gets a big one, 200 plus points. That's going to put him close to the threshold. Animal with a huge pop-off. Sunday, he must have heard you when you were disappointed earlier. He said, Dad, I'm sorry. I disappointed you with that fight. I know I got taken out by Nut. I'm going to make up for it and get a dub and try to make my way to a top 100 qualification.
Which is what he needs to do. Is Animal, his higher end of the spectrum in terms of talent and where he can fall on a given day is ridiculous. He's one of the most individually talented players in the game. However, talent doesn't always 100% turn into results. There is much more than just individual talent that goes into being a competitive player or a competitor in any given competition, and knowing how to be able to utilize what's around you and kind of push forward is going to be the next big step to him. And if he ever puts all of that together, he's going to be one of the scariest players in the world. But for now, I just see him as having such a high amount of potential that he taps into on a irregular basis.
So true. And then my first introduction to Animal was an interesting one. I probably shouldn't be saying this while I'm casting with an Epic employee, but I had access. I was one of the first people to have access to custom servers, thanks to my role in kind of leading the Microsoft Store amateur tournament program. And we had to test these custom servers, so we ran little quick custom lobbies, and didn't want word to get out that we had these customs. And I was like, I don't know, can we trust Animal and this kid Booga? I've never heard of Animal or Booga. This was literally like a couple months after the game came out, and that was my first introduction. They were trustworthy. We ran a quick tilted towers test with 10 people, and the servers worked great. Microsoft Store program went on to be a big success, a lot of fun, but that day I learned that Booga and Animal were trustworthy.
This was just funny thinking those two players and where they come all the way through, but Domo finding a good shot there on that run now. And he's actually needs to be careful because Wild Fox is hanging around the backside. In the top right-hand corner, you can see Unknown trying to manufacture some more 5 points for himself, just hanging out in the bush, kind of in this center circle. And a lot of players will pass through there because not only is there a bunch of excess wood, but the mushrooms will sometimes get left on the ground and it's free potential shields. But instead, Unknown Army, as soon as the circle reveals, he's going to start heading more central to the zone. So proud of him to see him actually playing what is the format right now and not just aggressively pushing. And as we say that Domo is able to pick him up and punish that rotation, he had been waiting for those shots, waiting to try and find it, and gives a little camera shake to let him know, yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice shot. And I'm not gonna lie, you deserve the camera shake. That's like an Ogre Twitch from back in the day. Shot to anyone who knows that Halo reference. Meanwhile, Domo with a huge pick right there on Unknown Army. So unfortunate if you're a fan of NRG Unknown Army. He gets taken out, and instead it will be Domo that lives to fight another day and gets himself to be in a good position to qualify here. This is a big game for Unknown. I think that may have made the difference for Unknown, unless he can really pop off in this last game or two, because he only has time for one, maybe two more games if he's lucky. Very, very unfortunate. Domo gets the pick, and Domo gets himself in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and we see a nice little replay of Symmetrical getting an elim onto Nader there. One thing to note just from where Unknown rotated, and let's talk about macro rotations in the sense of it, he didn't have to get sniped from Domo there. If he had actually disengaged inside the Grove towards Frenzy and stayed to the right-hand side of that mountain and gone northeast, he would have been fine. Domo would have never, or would have had a much smaller window to hit a shot on him, or it would have been through cover. So that's just a little bit of the undisciplined gameplay we're talking about. Like, yes, the idea is right to rotate early to the center zone. The path he took was wrong. He should have made sure he was keeping as much cover between the outside of the zone and his rotation path as possible. And because he goes to the left of the mountain, he gets taken out. And now what you see Domo doing is he's using all of Unknown Army's excess mass, making sure he's not leaving those for somebody else to come over. And he's building himself a tunnel further into zone. So now he occupies all of this space, and this is something you used to see Tfue, Cloaksy, Zate Staff, they did this all the time back in the World Cup Duos game, because you don't want to leave those extra resources for somebody else to come through. And now you have that entire tunnel where if you want to trade and get an engagement in a fight, you can lose somebody else. As we hop on board here with Notebook.
Notebook from NorCal. If, you know, the crazy Californians, I think is what Hogman called him earlier. Speaking of Hogman, we haven't seen a whole lot of Hogman in these lobbies. Not sure where he's currently standing. And, you know, it's interesting for a Texan. Usually it's the crazy Texans we're talking about. Just be talking about the crazy Californians. We all know how mechanically skilled and gifted the Californian Fortnite community is. Shout out to anyone of y'all watching right now from California is now Notebook getting himself in a little bit of engagement versus About That Life. To see if he is about that life and keeping his life alive in this one.
Yeah, and Notebook will have the peppers as well if he decides to get super aggressive. 6 crash pads in there, so plenty of bill-breaking opportunity. But also, we talked about using late game utility in the mid and the early game. You don't want to burn through that stuff right now if you don't have to. And as we say, that first crash pad goes down. Unfortunately, not able to go through the wall. Will pop it again to avoid that. You can see About That Life trying to disengage, but a ton of AR rifle fire ends up coming in. Notebook had to have heard that crash and be looking to push onto him.
Here he gets inside the box of his opponent, gets a good shot in, and there is the pick. I like the aggression. I know, you don't want to necessarily use a lot of those resources in the mid game especially that you're going to need in the late game, but chances are that individual's also going to have a crash pad, so you're going to be able to loop back up, which is exactly what's going to happen here for Notebook. Nice pick coming through from him. Notebook with a very interesting name of an inanimate object. That was me and my friends when I was younger. We used to look at random things on our desk and decide to make that our username. I was Beach Ball. So Notebook is joining the inanimate object name game. Shout out to him.
Yeah, I've only really been Sundown. Before Sundown, I had like my first
Really?
ever like generic Xbox tag. But then once I swapped it over, it was Sundown. I forget what it was. I think we did
Darkness.
like, I think my brother and I, we had one. It was like, our combined, it was like M-Dogs 11/27/05 or like something like that. It was like a combination of like both our birthdays and some stuff. But after that, I've been Sundown since Call of Duty 2 on the Xbox 360. Wow. So long time. But now back on board here with Newell. And again, while we are just a little bit delayed in terms of using the server replays, the current live line in terms of the top 100 is 211 points to make that grand final. So we can continue to expect that to rise up as we have 25 minutes left for players to queue up. So basically you have one full game and then a quick queue or kind of a mid game right now. So players are going to be forced into some interesting decision makings here as we see Newell just rotate into the center of his own. Colazo a little bit underneath him, Drax behind him, but Bubba Lubba Dub, or what is that? Wait, Bub Lou Bub is going to get, yeah, there we go. I don't know. Babulu Boo. Yeah, there you go. Babulu Boo will get picked up there. Newell going to get that. Spidey on the other side. I don't know. A bunch of B's and L's and U's. But Spidey picking that one up there. We're doing a pretty good job in terms of getting there, but we're not at placement points yet. Still 59 players remaining. So tons of points on the table and available in this game.
So how can you say Peter picked a peck of peppers but not Boobaloo? I mean, I'm really shocked right now. You've been dropping alliteration all day long, but you're struggling to say Boobaloo's name.
Well, it's like you want to get the name right, and then there's a bunch of vowels in the place, and like those are different words, but the actual enunciation of an individual word. It can be difficult. Words are hard, man, right? Words are hard.
I'll let that one slip. And, you know, as you say, you're talking about some of the point thresholds. Newell's going to pick up on a limb, gets to 218. And, again, as it currently stands, keep in mind with these server replays, we are a bit behind. We just want to kind of give you guys the latest updates. 213 was the last check I just made with Krizix, the player we interviewed yesterday, who won the Cash Cup yesterday. His first Cash Cup win, I think, in a long time or ever, I believe, as he's currently sitting at 213 in 100th place. On board with Midi right now with 199. It looks like Macon just wins another lobby. Macon was in that 100th place spot when we talked to Kelly last. And I said, she said, what does Macon need to do? I said, he needs to do more of what he did the game before and get a victory royale. Well, guess what? The very next game, he wins. Macon going huge right now. That secures him a top 100 spot for now.
Yeah, Nostafall out there giving a little bit of the opposite of a caster's curse, caster's blessing coming through. But Extra Midi is somebody who could use a little bit of a blessing right now, wants to pick up some points and has Squishy just on the opposite box here. You can tell he wants to play a little bit aggressively, has a decent amount of excess heals, not a ton in terms of shields, no minis in his back. So probably looking to try and get a pick here if he can.
By the way, we got ourselves a absolute stacker. 57 players remaining in this lobby going into the Force Storm. So now Midi has a 1v1 opportunity. Not a whole lot of people nearby, so he could take this 1v1 kind of clean. Not sure if he has that intel, and I'm not sure if he will decide to take it, but we'll see what's going to happen here. He'll be knocking on the door of this potential fight against Trash Squishy.
And this is why you're going to see a lot of players just slow down.
Again, we are a little bit behind, but this is going to be because you're already committed here. Players want to make it all the way into this endgame. They're going to play super safe. You don't want to fall, particularly outside of the top 50 when you can't get your hands on any of those placement points. Going down in this point in time is just such a phenomenal waste of key final moments. But Midi finally makes his move and picks up Squishy. That was the elimination. We talked about him setting up. The question is, can he get out of it cleanly in terms of the utility as by him, which shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, well done for Midi. I was about to say, as soon as he actually turned away is when Squishy started rotating and he missed the opportunity to get the shot on him. But the aggression, the crash pad play, that's textbook. That's the crash pad box aggression that we've seen in this current meta. You know, love it or hate it, you got to play with it. Midi's going to take advantage of it and get himself in the limb.
And right now, hopping on board here with I'm Extreme and .exe, who's in a little bit of trouble, pinned down in the bar with a bunch of players around him, but plenty of excess utility to be able to heal himself right back on up.
Yeah. DreamHack.exe, we'll see if he can execute here in this late game. 203 points currently to his name. So we've been watching the right players. Big shout out to production. Every single person we're watching is right on the fringe of that 213 point threshold as we last checked it. We'll keep you updated on what that is at. Now it's 222. It's gaining by the minute. Nice pick by Extreme. He's going to be at 208. If he can make it to this late game, he will be in the top 100. We'll keep watching I'm Extreme. His first pick of the game here is now hopping over to Resin. 169, not exactly the same fortune.
Yeah, trying to find some picks, pick up some of those points here on the table. Has Timber Stiz right on the other side. So we flip back on board, get a check of the wide lobby. Do still have Storm Surge on board. Resin is one of those players who's below the threshold. In fact, he is the only player who's below the threshold. So he's going to need to find some damage or picks here. He's going to be the one looking to push forward and make some action. Otherwise, he's going to be at the threat of Storm Surge. And instead, will get picked up by Extinct, finds the first shot, not quite able to get the second, down to 14 HP. Storm Surge is going to tick in as soon as the zone closes, and Resin will end up going down, but instead, Zolak finds him with the AR and spares him from the big purple hammer.
Yeah, and Resin with only 170 points, I think might be looking a little bit bleak for him. Might be looking slow for a qualification unless he can pop off in his last game. Keep in mind, we do have 20 minutes left, as we just saw on screen for your cues. So if you're playing and watching the stream like Ladies Man was earlier, as he was in first place, make sure you get your final games in. We'll be watching as we got about 40 minutes left of this first segment of the broadcast. If you're watching, by the way, set your alarm clock, do whatever you need to do. Don't go anywhere, because we got the grand finals after this. The top 100 players from this qualification will make it to the grand finals, a 6-game final that'll be brought to you by the ones and only Bulla and Shayo, two of the greatest to ever do it. Big shout out to my boys, as I'm gonna sit back and get to enjoy that cast right after this.
Right now, we have Zolak in the top right, Guy Goose in the bottom right, rest of the lobby out in the wide. You can see Carson CBC hanging out in there right now. Ricky climbing and Daddy Wiz just below Guy Goose as he's able to box himself up. A little bit of shots coming towards him, but nothing too major. As you see, the rest of the players take to the sky on the rotation. Can he find any picks here?
Like a bunch of cicadas in the sky right now. He's like, which one do I shoot? I don't even know. As Guy Goose finally gets some tags in, 2 eliminations to his name right now, 173 points, needs a pop-off game here. He's going to finally get 1 pick. That's 179 points now for Guy Goose. Looks for one other. It's going to be Opt. And he's going to take him out. That's another pick. That's 2. Not done yet. 180 points. I believe he got that. Maybe, actually, no, he did not. It was Clutch that got instead.
Yeah, Clutch able to steal that one away right at the last second, but some good shots coming out from Guy Goose right now, trying to find another angle to turn these into eliminations as 48 players remain. So placement points are beginning to tick over. Players are going to be able to gain some of those additional ones, but you want to get as many as possible. We want to just outlast at this point. It's all about making it into the end game. Any elimination is nice, but you need to accumulate those placement points.
Yeah, we see Midi, who we know is on the threshold. Guy Goose is somewhat close. A couple of the names and players. Notebook on screen as well, who we know is somewhat close. It's going to be an interesting finish here. A little bit of a hill that they might have to traverse. Not sure where we're rotating to. Looks like he'll be away. Is now on board with Turt and Guy Goose. 3 eliminations for one, 0 for the other. Some better loot, though, in my eyes, for Turt overall with those floppers. As Guy Goose is going to find one, is not going to get the pick. He keeps getting his limbs taken right underneath the hair of his shitty chin shit. Not able to get that one.
Not able to find it. You have Turt in the top right, still Goose in the bottom right. You can see everyone using all of their utility to get across. Storm Surge will tick on, but the players will end up falling anyway, as it's half bouncy castle, half rotations coming out. It's the Clippers, Axum Ranger in the sky, Crims and Lush now getting their rotation on.
Turk in the storm, using his fish as we wait for the server to catch up here in a second. Rotations coming through during this late game scenario. Causes a little bit extra going on, but here we go. Turk now picking up with the action. Able to eat those floppers and maintain his high ground control as Goose is still on a good rotation path, but players are beginning to drop like flies.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's what you expect on these rotating and moving circles towards the late game. Goose currently in a one by one. Just listening, waiting for an opportunity. Says, I finally want to finish one of these elims. Can I please? Meanwhile, Turk still has not picked up an elim, but is finding a player. He's going to have an opportunity to laser Kipling. Not able to get the pick. Midi, we watched earlier, is going to pick up one. And finally, there you go. It's going to be Turk getting his first elim on Kipling. He was the last person to do some damage, and he ended up getting the elim thanks to the Storm. So Turk plus the Storm equals best friends.
Plazo picking up an elim, and Goose gets a huge one onto Carson there. Goose still in the bottom right. Turk in your top right-hand corner. You can see 69 Donnie heading to the high ground. Domo up there. Midi currently our high ground holder, working top down, trying to maintain it, but Storied Brute knocks down the high ground with one of those crash pads as we hop back on board here with Turk, who picks up his second there onto elite ammo, trying to drop down and find whatever mats out of that he can. Picks up a nice little 15, doesn't get the brick though, as Polu is on high ground, and Midi goes and retakes it right as I say that with a crash pad.
Yeah, we got Clutch, we got Midi, a few players alive here in this late game. Midi holding ultimate high right now. Goose flying across him with the crash pad. Wild Fox, we're gonna jump on board with now. 230 points for Wild Fox. Only 7 builds left, needs to be extra careful here. Gonna use 2 of them for a platform and a little bit of a roof. And now here comes the flank. Misses a couple shots that he would have wanted back. A couple more picks can be picked up. Midi is currently the veteran of the lobby, the experienced player of the lobby that is holding high ground. The question is, can he hold on to it? It looks like he should be able to. Ultimate high, letting everyone fight, but here comes the push. I don't know if that's what the courtesy of a shockwave launcher that might be in the game here.
You can hear that shockwave launcher and the charged shotguns all just being held off there. You have HOV up on the high ground right now, hopping on board here with Turk, who has now picked up his 4th inside the top 15. Shots in the close range zone. Mateo is going to take him down with some good burst shots there. You can see Epic Burst and the Epic Charge Shotgun there as he has Extinct on the other side of the wall, pushes in and sticks with the burst fire again, punishing the player for missing those close range shoddy shots as now we swap on board. You have HOV up on the high ground, Shockwave Launcher and Kit's Charge Shotgun, both the mythic weapons in his inventory. 5 eliminations, 21 builds, and we're going back over the tarp he already has.
Yeah, this is HOV's game to lose right now with his kit, with his loadout in a great position. Mateo got 2 and then finally ended up getting taken out by Newell. Currently on board with HOV, doing a little bit of Matrix stuff as we're waiting for the server to catch up here. And now below him are a few players. He currently has the Shockwave. You're going to start letting him rip soon, but there's so much cover. He's actually not really able to use the Shockwave. It's not going to be super effective here. So he wants to join in the action, try and see if he can influence the fight towards this late game. So many builds in this late game that the server's taking a bit of time. Finally, HOV is actually being threatened right now. So this will be the second time we've seen today where Mythic actually ends up losing. And there you go. The Mythic ends up saving him. Nice job from HOV to stay alive.
And a brilliant play from Midi to catch himself with the crash pad right after, and he catches a double back-to-back charge shots from Extras. Midi on the low ground to keep himself in the game, pushes him in the top 3. HOV is in the bottom right-hand corner, but Midi is looking to find it. No, it's that Epic Tac Shotgun, I apologize. Finds it, but not quite able to get it. HOV finds Midi, ends his run. Can HOV close it out? And he does. Brilliantly done to get 7 eliminations and the victory royale, but Midi stole the show with that highlight reel crash pad.
Undoubtedly, HOV with a huge win. Only 15 HP left before he got that siphon. Massive plays and massive points being put up by HOV. Where does that put him in the standings, though? We'll find out right after this.